Do you say yes when you want to say no? Do you put others first and you try your hardest to keep everyone else happy? But underneath that, your anxiety is building and building and building. Well, here's the truth I want you to know. People pleasing does not, and I'll repeat that, it does not reduce your anxiety. What it does do is it feeds it and it makes it fatter and fatter and fatter. Hi, I'm Cheryl and I own Your Time to Shine Therapy, and I'm a therapist who works with people struggling with anxiety, struggling with overwhelm and people-pleasing patterns. Now I want you to think if you have ever done these things. Felt responsible for other people's feelings. That's a massive one for me. I do that quite a lot. Not as much now, but I do it. Finding it hard to say no without feeling guilty. That's another big one for me as well. And felt drained from constantly giving to others. And again, that is another big one for me. So you can see you're not alone. There's a lot of people that are doing exactly the same thing. In this video, I'm going to explain why people pleasing fuels your anxiety, what's really happening underneath that, and how I help clients break this pattern and regain control. Sorry, I'm just going to shut my door because we're cutting the grass outside. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this cycle is so hard to break and what actually works. And I know it works because I've come through it and I've used this technique myself. People pleasing often looks like being kind, being helpful, or being supportive. But here's the truth. Underneath it, there is always a deeper driver. And it could be things like fear of conflict, fear of being rejected, fear of not being liked. Because let's be honest, we all want to fit into a tribe, whether that's a family tribe, a friend's tribe, we all need to belong. So what we do in these circumstances is we say yes when we really don't want to. And the reason we do that is because we want to avoid difficult conversations. We put other people's needs ahead of our own. And, while this might reduce the tension in that moment, it might make you feel better in that moment, it creates something else, which is internal pressure. And we might not realise that at first, but it does, it creates this internal pressure. Because every time you ignore your own needs, your body registers that and it keeps hold of it. And it puts it in this little filing cabinet of you, not sort of thinking about what it is that you wanted at that time. And then what happens then is anxiety starts to build. Not from what you're doing for others, but from what you're not allowing yourself to do. One of the biggest hidden effects of people pleasing is what I call emotional debt. So every time you say yes when you mean no, every time you stay quiet instead of speaking up, and every time you prioritise others at your own expense, you create a gap between how you feel and how you act. It creates this gap. Over time, this then builds into resentment, it builds into exhaustion, and it builds into anxiety. And the gap starts to get filled with these emotions, and you start to feel really disconnected from yourself. And the more that gap grows and gets deeper, the harder it becomes to feel calm, clear, and in control. What happens is your nervous system is constantly managing that internal conflict. And most people don't people please because they want to. They do it because it makes them feel safer. It makes them feel part of the tribe. You might think, yeah, but if I say no, then they might get upset and then I'll feel awful because I've upset them. If I speak up and speak my mind, it might cause an argument or some conflict, or maybe it's caused a problem in the past and that's what you keep thinking about. And if I put myself first, then I seem like I'm being really selfish, because that's another thing that people do. You know, if you're a person that constantly does for others, and then all of a sudden you say no, then people start to think, what's wrong with them? How selfish are they being? And I know because I've been through this myself. So even when we know that it's affecting us, changing it feels really uncomfortable, and it even feels risky. So it scares us. And that is where people stay stuck. Because choosing short-term comfort over long-term well-being keeps you stuck. And that pattern keeps our anxiety going, because you're constantly overriding your own needs all the time. In my therapy sessions, we don't just tell you to set boundaries. Set your boundaries. We also help you to understand why it feels so difficult, in the first place, as to why you're feeling like that. So we include things like identifying the beliefs that drive people pleasing, the fear of rejection, guilt, responsibility. We also look at building awareness of when you're overriding your own needs and why you do that. We also practice small, safe ways to set boundaries. And we look at reducing the anxiety that comes with saying no, because you do feel anxious when you say no. And as this work builds, clients then seem to notice that they have less anxiety and internal pressure, because that internal pressure can really start to crush you. They also start to feel more clarity about what they actually want, because they don't consider what they want. It increases confidence in setting boundaries, and it gives you a healthier, more balanced relationship, with the people around you and with yourself, to be fair. And what clients will often say to me when we're doing this work or going through this work is, I didn't realise how much I was carrying until I stopped. And that's where real relief begins. Because when you're no longer managing everyone else's, problems or issues at the expense of yourself, then you start to feel better. If this resonates, then ask yourself this today. What am I saying yes to when I really mean no? Because awareness is the first step to changing this pattern. And yeah, it'll be scary and it'll be hard and you'll probably feel really guilty, but you can do it, because I did it, so I know it can be done. If you want support breaking free from people pleasing and reducing your anxiety, I work with clients one-to-one to set boundaries without guilt, to reduce anxiety and overwhelm, and to build confidence and self-trust. We also create more healthy and balanced relationships. Please subscribe for more videos about anxiety, boundaries and mental health strategies that actually work. And in the comments, let me know what is one situation where you find hard, where you find it hard to say no, or one person that you find hard to say no to. Because that's a big thing as well. People find it hard to say no to particular people. I do read every comment and I will give you some tips, on how to get around this. So thank you for watching. I shall see you all again soon. Bye for now.